Happy Earth Day, today, April 22nd, 2024. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to tell you why I'm so happy that we get to celebrate Earth Day every year to remind us what a remarkable planet we share. And planet Earth is pretty remarkable, but also about the important work. And the reason Earth Day started is to really celebrate and call out environmental stewardship, conservation, and sustainability. And what we've been able to do here at the Department of Food and Agriculture, working on our Climate Smart Ag programs and our Farm to School program to really bring it all together, is to share with you some exciting news that's being announced today. And that is under a law that passed more than a year ago, AB 1757, our nature-based solutions targets, which are ambitious, like many of our climate goals are, but very doable. This is part of really looking at nature and the role of nature, natural and working lands as part of the solution to climate change. And in fact, in our scoping plan, we recognize that this is very important element of being able to achieve carbon neutrality going forward. Today, the governor will be announcing our targets, and I'm going to talk specifically about our targets for working lands, which can be forestry, of course, but our rangeland and our cropland and what we in agriculture can do. You know, at the United States level, it's calculated that the emissions from our working lands and our farms is about 10% of the total inventory of greenhouse gas emissions. Here in California, it's smaller than that. It's 8%. And we know for a fact that farmers can lead with solutions because farmers hold the soil in their hand and the ability to sequester carbon as a big, important part of solutions to climate change. And those are the targets I want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about. It is very much focused on healthy soils programs that we have at the Department of Food and Agriculture, really being able to capitalize on the incentive grants that we've had for climate smart agriculture and the number of farmers who are participating in practices on their land that will help us sequester carbon, build up soil organic matter, and in doing that, improving our nutrient cycling, improving and enhancing the below ground biodiversity, and at least a third of our biodiversity is in the soil underneath our feet. And overall, improving our resiliency, improving our ability to continue to grow in a sustainable way, the healthy food and the bounty of it that we provide to Californians and people across this nation. So target number one is really setting an ambitious goal for increasing the acreage that's under healthy soils practices. That can be no-till, it can be mulching, it can be compost, it can be hedgerows. There's a number of practices. Many of them come out of the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service programs, the EQUIP program, and what we've been able to fund here in California in the last few years. All of these are about sequestering carbon, being part of the solution, building up our resiliency for drought, for flood, for extreme heat, and to make sure that crop productivity can begin. So speaking of targets, and our target for our healthy soils in particular, we calculate about 1 million acres. That's an estimate of lands already with healthy soils practices on them. Between 2025 to 2029, adding an additional 100,000 acres per year with soil health practices. Then from 2030, for the next 9 years, ramping that up to 140,000 additional acres each year. And then leading into 2045, adding an additional 190,000 acres per year. In all, it would be over 3 million acres added to this inventory of soils and soil health practices. It's pretty remarkable. I think it's actually very doable with the kinds of incentive programs that are being offered, the interest of food companies in this and helping to scale that up, and just the innovation of California farmers being able to do remarkable things to really improve our practices and improve our ability to have sustainable food production for centuries to come. So that's it on our soil health practices. We also include targets for ag land conservation and conserving our rangelands. Very important in a time of fast-growing populations that we help prevent that sprawl of going out, which also reduces vehicle miles traveled, and being able to add 12,000 additional acres each year under conservation easements. Again, another doable but still ambitious goal between now and 2040. And also really looking at the other ways that we're supporting this effort. One is looking at the incentive grants that we've had in the past couple of years to do more on-farm carbon farm plans as well as conservation farm plans. We have 700 new carbon farm plans that we've been able to fund through that program for conservation planning on the farm, and specifically targeting carbon farm plans, which is pretty complicated business. But we've also been able to fund over 1,000 new programs that are on farm looking at that nutrient management, water conservation, and a little bit more about habitat planning on our farms. That's just the level of interest in farmers of being part of the solution. I also have to comment, none of this is doable without the investment that we've been made over the last 10 years in technical assistance, starting with the Memorandum of Understanding that CDFA now has with our partners at the federal level, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, our friends and partners at UC Ag and Natural Resources, which has cooperative extension, and our friends in every region of the state through the California Resource Conservation Districts. That level of expertise, being able to reach every farmer in every corner of the state to know about these programs, to be able to apply for these programs, or as a farmer who may never apply for an incentive grant program, to know what the science, the data, and the quantification verification processes are for healthy soils practices. We couldn't do this without our partners. Most of all, we couldn't do it without our farmers and our ranchers. The last thing I want to do, I talked about farm to school, is when we think about nature-based solutions, it's natural and working landscapes. We know how much we've learned in recent years about the importance of connecting with nature, to be in more natural settings, and what that means for our mental health, for our spiritual health, in addition to what comes off of our working lands that nourishes us with healthy food production. Farm to School is an exciting program that's really about targeting and using the power of procurement of our schools to do more purchasing of fresh and locally produced foods from our small farms, our mid-sized farms, and our historically underserved farms. And that there are farmers that are implementing climate-smart practices on their farms. It's about improving the nutrition literacy of all of our students so that from the youngest age, they're setting lifestyle habits that will help them be the best that they can be and avoid chronic diseases that oftentimes can be prevented because of good nutrition. And finally, experiential learning, involving children in what it takes to grow our food, being able to go out and do nature walks, to go and have more access to public lands. These are all parts of ways that we in agriculture, within our local communities, are really caring for the earth, caring for our neighbors, and making sure that we can all grow healthy together. So, a lot to talk about when it comes to nature-based solutions. I'm very proud of the work of our staff at the Department of Food and Agriculture and the collaboration that we have with the Natural Resources Agency, our friends at the California Air Resources Board, and the Environmental Protection Agency. It's big work, it's important work. It's critical work for us as we strive for carbon neutrality and making sure that we have a healthy planet and a healthy environment with healthy food production for all to have access. Happy Earth Day 2024.